Great. Welcome, everyone, to the Town of Greater Napanee regular session of council for the 23rd day of September 2025. Just before we call the meeting to order, just like to welcome those that are here in the council chambers this evening, as well as those that are watching online via our YouTube channel, and those that will watch us in the future, be it tomorrow, the next day, or next week. So welcome, everyone. And of course, we'll remind everybody that this evening's meeting is being live streamed via our YouTube channel. Having said that, we'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start this evening's meeting off with our opening proceedings, which is the playing of O Canada. So I'd ask those in the council chambers to stand and face the flag. Great. Thank you, everyone. This evening's meeting will start with a closed session meeting that we had this afternoon, and we'll look for a motion to rise and report from closed session. Moved by Councillor Hicks, second by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. I would like to report that in closed session this evening, Council approved the closed session minutes of September 9th and received a supplemental report to item 9.8 regarding an agreement for recyclable collection at depot sites, which contain confidential third-party information. Having said that, we'll look for a motion for the adoption of the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Norrie, second by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Deputations, scheduled deputations, new items, I don't believe we have any. Deputations, items on the agenda, I don't believe we have any. And correspondence items on the agenda, I don't believe we have any of those either. Unfinished business, we don't have any unfinished business, and we'll jump right into the administrative consent agenda. The first item is the sorry about that. The council minutes for the regular session of council September 9th, 2025, and the special session of council September 16th, 2025. Is there anything in those minutes that anyone has any questions or comments about? Seeing none. Committee minutes, Waste Diversion Committee and Arts Advisory Committee. Is there anything in those minutes that anyone had any questions about, or is the council? Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got two reports from the Waste Diversion Committee tonight. We were just a little bit out of sync with council meetings and committee meetings, so we've got two to report on. At the first meeting on August 20th, that meeting, the committee put forward a motion to end the special levy on curbside garbage removal. And that motion actually was passed 100% unanimous by the committee, by the way. I'm just kind of hoping tonight that the same consideration will be given to the Waste Diversion Committee as the mayor stated with the Trails Committee a couple of weeks back, that their recommendations be heard and considered. We also had a second motion at the committee level to ask council for a modest budget of $3,000 and that to be used during the year to be used for waste diversion, but we might want to subsidize compost bins. We might want to possibly subsidize electric food waste dehydrators, that type thing. But it's all concerning waste diversion. We didn't have a budget last year, or this year, I should say, but we're hoping to have one next year. And we may need to do some advertising as well to educate people on the new recycling system. So that's what that will be. And the reason I mention it is because we did have a motion for it. I realize we got told afterwards that we need to fill out a report or a request form, and which we did, by the way, but I just wanted to touch on that. Many other things were discussed at the second meeting. Green bin program possibly in the future. We had many members doing consultations with other communities as far as their implementation of the new Blue Box program. Household organic waste, that type of thing. The rest of the reports, basically council can read the report. It speaks for itself pretty well. I would have a little more to say later on at 9.9 if council allows. But that's the end of my report. Like I say, the Waste Diversion Committee there's a lot of very conscientious people on it, and I just hope that we can accommodate them as far as at least listening to their comments and go from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Martin. The Arts Advisory Committee, Councillor Norrie, is there anything you'd like to add?
As written.
Thank you, Councillor Norrie. Correspondence for information items dated September 23rd, 2025. Is there anything in that correspondence anyone would like to have a chat about? Seeing none, growth and infrastructure services, utilities, emergency procurement, water, main repair, County Road 41. Is there anything in that report that anyone would like to have a conversation or speak to? Seeing none, executive services, amendments to the County Initiatives Fund policy. Is there anything in that report anyone would like to make notice of or talk about? Seeing none, the financial IT services addition to the reserves bylaw to add the Community Initiatives Fund. Anything in that report that anyone had any questions about or comments? Seeing none, the amendment to fees and charges bylaw. Anything in that report that anyone had any questions or comments about? Seeing none, boards and advisory committees monthly report for September 2025. Is there anything in those reports that anyone had any comments or questions about? Seeing none, financial and IT services activity report September 2025. Is there anything in that those activity reports that anyone had any questions of? Seeing none, activity report fire department August and September of 2025. Is there anything in that activity report that anyone had any questions or comments about? Councillor Hicks.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Just, there's not an actual category for encampments. So is that open air burn complaints? I'm just wondering if that's where it would fall in the report.
Through your worship, yes, it would be.
I thought as much. I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Through your worship, we have worked towards getting an encampment coding in our reports, so that'll be clear in future activity reports.
I think that would be well worth investigating. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything else? Seeing none, next up is the Parks, Recreation, Culture September 2025 activity report. Is there anything in that activity report anyone any questions of? Seeing none, activity report executive services for September 2025. Is there anything in that report? Seeing none, growth and infrastructure activity report September 2025. Anything in that report? Is there any questions or comments there? Seeing none, and the Access E11 August 2025 report. Is there anything in the Access E11 report that anyone had any questions or comments about? Seeing none, so we do have a recommendation that council consent to the approval of the following routine items. That the minutes of the regular session of council dated September 9th and special session of council dated September 16th, 2025 be adopted as presented. That the Waste Diversion Committee and Arts Advisory Committee minutes of August 20th, September 17th, 2025 be received for information. That the correspondence for information items dated September 23rd, 2025 be received. That council receive for information the growth infrastructure services, utilities, emergency procurement, water main repair, County Road 41 report, and further that council approve the use of utilities capital reserve funds to cover any overages in the 2025 utilities operations budget that may result from this specific event. That council receive for information the executive services amendments to the Community Initiative Fund Policy Report, and further that council adopt the amended Community Initiative Fund Policy as presented. That council receive for information the Financial and IT Services Report, Community Initiatives Fund, and further that council support the amendment to the bylaw 2023-0067 to add to the Community Initiatives Fund Reserve. That council receive for information the amendment to fees and charges bylaw report, and further that council will report the amending bylaw included later on this agenda. That council receive for information the boards and advisory committees monthly report for September 2025. That council that the activity reports for growth and infrastructure, executive services, fire department, parks, recreation, and culture, and the financial and IT services for the month of September 2025, and the Access E11 report for August 2025, items 8.10 through 8.15 be received for information. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Items for consideration. Parks, Recreation, and Culture, Town Hall Roof. I see Mr. Brown coming up. So Chris, when you get settled in, the floor will be yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. The 2025 capital budget includes a project to extend the useful life of the town hall roof by applying a protective coating to the existing metal roof. The budgeted amount for the project was $37,000. Upon inspection of the roof while we were identifying the final scope of work for the project, additional repairs were identified for staff and ultimately council consideration. Those additional repairs are listed in the report. I won't go through them one by one, but it would make good sense to complete those repairs before we put that protective coating on. In terms of procurement, staff are recommending cooperative purchasing through Kinetic GPO be utilized to acquire the services of Garland DBS Canada Inc. for the project. Kinetic GPO is a group purchasing organization established for public sector across Canada, with the specific purpose of reducing procurement costs by leveraging the purchasing power of group buying. We have used Canoe Procurement. We're also a member of Kinetic GPO, so it's a similar situation. So Garland, they broke the project value into two different parts. The initial scope of work was the metal roof coating, and that came in at $39,858. And the additional repairs that were identified come to $9,218, which brings the total project cost to $49,000 and change. So there are a couple alternative options that council could consider, but just jumping ahead to the financial implications. So we do have a $12,000 deficit. So in consultation with the finance department, staff are recommending that $12,000 be funded through that Market Square Reserve, which was the intention for all the work being done here at Town Hall. I also wanted to point out the current estimated balance for Town Hall Reserve is approximately $370,000, but with the steps and the roof projects, by year end, we're looking at being at $272,000. And again, that's approximate. Happy to answer any questions that the council might have and go from there.
Thanks, Chris. Is there any questions or comments for Chris with respect to his report or his presentation? Deputy Mayor Calver.
Thank you, through your worship. Yeah, Chris, I agree. Like, if we're gonna go do the money, we should be doing it all at one shot rather than doing the coating and then coming back at another time to do the repair, get it all done. Not in this report and nothing to it. I know once we talked about the lighting around outside for the decorative lighting. Is that going anywhere at all?
Yeah, through your worship. So we do want to put the lighting that we had spoken about around the soffit of Town Hall. The idea around that is to be able to light up town hall different colors for holiday seasons, proclamations. We would have the benefit of being able to control that from an app on our phone. So it would be very easy to use. We did get a quote for that, and it isn't a ton of money. So we would be looking to do that probably in 2026. And it might be even something that we can work into the operating budget as well.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Councillor Shank.
Chris, so it's gonna be sealed, it's gonna be looked after and everything else, but may I ask, what color are you gonna paint it at the end?
Through your worship, so the color is going to be a gray, similar to the existing metal, except it's going to cover all the rust and corrosion spots. So it will be entirely gray. There isn't a ton of color options. We don't want it to be white. That was one of the other options. So we were going with gray.
When you look at the other ones, you look at the old Campbell House and you look at the other ones, the other roofs. I'm sorry, when I drive through town, I don't look at the roof all the time, but when we were discussing this originally, is there any way of matching whatever those color is now it's dark and I sit in the opposite side of the room or else I just take a look, but is there any way, I'd like to, if all the roofs here are a certain color, you want to simulate to what is a part of the downtown, as part of Napanee, rather than have a silver dome right here, you know what I mean? So that's just my thought process. Maybe, you know, I don't know. I can't remember what those colors were, if they were a light brown or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, through your worship. So I do believe that the only color options are white and gray. So we were going to go with the gray, and I'm not sure if that's because it's not paint. So there's probably not a wide range. But this would we would seal up everything and then put this coating over top. It adds a function of waterproofing at the same time. But what it's really doing is prolonging the life of that metal.
Can they not tint that gray though? Since it's all just base color anyway. Did you ask that? I don't know.
Through your worship, I can definitely ask and find out and get back to you before it goes on.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Shank. Thanks, Chris. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calvert.
Through your worship to Councillor Shank, most of the roofs downtown are black or gray. There is the odd green roof downtown, but the gray I think would fit in fairly nice with what's down there now. I just looking at some drone footage that I did on the weekend, so I try too, don't look at the rooftops very often, but I thought, well, we're on the subject, I'll take a boo.
I'll take it all back. Ryan just sent me some pictures and there we go. We have gray downtown. There we go.
Perfect. I love it when it gets solved that quickly. So is there anything else of Chris? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information, the Parks, Recreation, Culture, Town Hall roof report, and further that council award the Town Hall roof project in the amount of $49,076 plus HST to Garland DBS Canada Inc. And further that council fund the budget deficit of $12,076 plus HST through the Market Square Reserve. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calvert, seconded by Councillor Norrie. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Hicks. We got a motion on the floor, so go ahead.
I'm looking for, I have a question. I'm not in any way, shape or form saying that we shouldn't do the work. I'm all in favor of that. Market Square Reserve and Town Hall Reserve. And the recommendation is to do this through the Market Square Reserve? Is that? Okay, it's just the same thing, so it's just semantics. Okay, thanks very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Hicks. We do have a motion on the floor. Is there any other questions? If not, we'll call for the vote. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion that's on the floor, opposed, the motion is carried. Executive Services Daycare Parking Request, and I think Madam Clerk is going to speak to that.
So through your worship, as council is likely aware, there was a tragic incident earlier this month in Richmond Hill, following which the province has issued direction to all daycare operators to take action to immediately prevent any similar incidents occurring in the future. The daycare, the town has received correspondence from a local daycare that does not own or control the parking next to their building. The parking lot is owned by the town. So apparently I have a typo on the location of the property. But on Mill Street, the town owns a parking lot on both sides of Mill Street. And so the daycare has approached the town to request that the town grant them at no cost the exclusive use of those parking stalls for their staff. Their proposal is that their staff vehicles would be placed in earlier before any parent or other public traffic arrives, therefore adhering to the request from the ministry. After this report was published, we did receive additional correspondence from the daycare operator indicating that at this time, they have been advised not to take any permanent actions as the ministry program is still refining its advice to them, and that they have further meetings coming. There's a few options outlined in this report for council's consideration, whether that is to grant these parking stalls at a cost or at no cost, as is their request, or to direct that some kind of permanent barrier be installed to protect the daycare from vehicular traffic, again, either at the operator's cost or the town's cost. That is council's discretion what to do there. Happy to take any questions on this.
Great, thanks, Jess. Is there any questions or comments for Jessica, Deputy Mayor Cower?
Thank you, Your Worship. Jessica, so I'm assuming we're talking about the parking lot that would be on the south side of Mill Street.
Through your worship, that is correct. Looking at this, I really should have included a map. Yes, it's on the south side. The town's parking lot goes right from the wall of what used to be the Salvation Army and is now a daycare, up to the ABS Accounting Services corner of their building. That lot is it's got some trees in the middle of it, but that is one parcel that is owned by the town.
Okay, that's where I thought we were talking, because I know in the other parking lot, we have guardrail down the center of the parking lot to prevent, I don't know why there's guardrails down the side of that parking lot, really. But anyways, but that's basically what they're looking for, is a guardrail or something to prevent a car from entering into their property. Is that what they're looking for?
Through your worship, that is certainly one option that could be done. Per the letter attached here from the ministry, it is just any safety measure that would prevent a vehicle from driving into the side of a building while there are children present in the building. Whether that is a guardrail, is something concrete, is a bollard, there are some daycares that have just set out pylons for now until they get clearer directions. It does sound like there will be more direction coming on this in the near future.
Okay, so maybe we should just sit tight until we get more direction. Is that kind of what we're thinking?
Through your worship, given that this was a fairly time-sensitive request and staff don't really have the authority to be making decisions to give away town assets to a private business, we thought it was appropriate to get this in front of council for your direction as quickly as we could.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Councillor Hicks?
Through you, your worship, if we are still waiting on the ministry, and depending on how long they take to come up with a concrete plan, could we perhaps just tell the staff that they can have the 7 spaces temporarily and at no cost for 1 month and then at the end of 1 month, if there's nothing, my concern is, and I don't know if this is a subsidized daycare or not, but $280 a month, and staff aren't going to pay that out of their pocket. It's going to come out of the overhead. If it's going to increase costs to the patrons, to the families that use the daycare. So for 1 month, if we could allow them to use the spaces at no charge, in the interest of protecting the lives of children, and then see where we're at with the ministry, bring it back.
Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Mr. Grant?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. A short answer, Councillor Hicks, is council can do what they want. The That's the short answer. If there is an interim desire to put something in place until more guidance is given, I would suggest that that's within council's authority. I think if there is a longer term ask with respect to parking for a private business, regardless of what the business is, I think that's more of a policy discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Go ahead, Mike.
Those 7 parking spaces, where do they park currently now? Are they using those spaces?
Through your worship, yes, they are. There does actually appear to already be signage there indicating that they are daycare parking spaces. Not clear how long that signage has been up for. It may have been up for quite a while and we just haven't noticed. Nobody's raised it as a concern.
So they're using all 7. And there's some posters on there. It says daycare parking on all 7 lots, on all 7 spaces, correct?
Through your worship, that's correct.
I have all the facts right now. Another thing is now they for embankment or since I'm aware and council is aware there's a problem, how would you feel if tomorrow somebody slammed through it? So I'd much rather, I know everybody can disagree, but what would it cost? Like, what's the cheapest way, drill a hole in the ground, put a cement and then fill it with cement, they have those little, and then paint them yellow with a yellow over top of them and each spot so they can't go through, you know what I mean? So that whatever's the cheapest and easiest way to do it, doesn't matter whether it's there or not, it is our parking spot, it's our property. So if somebody happens to go through there and slam into it, I sure wouldn't want to be liable and I sure wouldn't want to have a child getting hurt. So for the cost of 7 spots, what can we do in the meantime? Because now that we've been aware that there's a problem, I don't know, maybe I'm all wrong, but I'd find out whatever's the cheapest and most efficient way of doing it and then having it done. And then we can discuss about this, is there other people that want to use that? Have you ever had any complaints that anybody else wanted to use those 7 parking spots?
So through your worship, this gets a little bit into something that's mentioned in this report. One of the things that came up as we were looking into this is that pre-COVID, we did used to have a parking lease program for some parking stalls in the downtown. Records are very unclear about how that worked. But I did find some indication that at one point in time, the Salvation Army had exclusive use of those stalls through some kind of agreement under that program. And I do know there is a report later on this agenda about taking a holistic look at our downtown parking. And if that is something we decide to move forward with, I would request that we look at this issue of allocating specific stalls to specific businesses from a more holistic view as well. But I will say I haven't received any complaints about it from anybody. I also don't think the general public realizes that that's not part of the daycare property.
Today's economy, both parents generally are working. So there is a need for the daycare to have quality daycare, which I totally agree with. But at the same token is what you do for one, you got to do for others. We have a lot of businesses that have free parking. All right. So you can't charge one. And when you have other people that have a tendency to park in wrong spots and is constantly fighting, but they get their parking for free, we don't charge them for their business. So it's what you do for one, we have to do for everybody else. That's why that's why I like to break it in 2 items. Have a report come back of what it should be charged or should we not charge? What do we do for everybody else? Which easily can be found out. But the first thing I would like to see is what is the most efficient and cost-effective way of putting some type of barrier so nobody slams into that. I'm not saying it ever will happen, but by God, I would hate to have some child ever get hurt. You know what I mean? So that's my point.
And if I may make a suggestion, I'm not sure that an employee vehicle is any safer parking in there than a member of the public. a vehicle going in through a building is a vehicle going in through a building. So I'm not sure that keeping those parking spots specifically for that business is the best answer. I think the easy answer is you just bring the loader down there with some of them big cement things on a temporary basis, stick it in front of the building, and it's done until such time. This is really bizarre because I've never seen the province react knee-jerk on something, because when it was brought to my attention, I read it in the newspaper and the memo come out the next day. But nobody has an idea of what to do. And then another memo come out and says, well, just hold on until we figure this out. So I don't dispute the fact that a vehicle going through the front window of a daycare is very, very dangerous. And it could happen easily, I suppose, on Mill Street, because Mill Street is 15 feet from, the premise on Mill Street is about 15 feet from the road. The only saving grace is not perpendicular, it's parallel. So all we really have to do is worry about that parking lot. But if we could maybe send it back to Works Department to see if they got any of them big concrete barriers to sit there on a temporary basis until they're better than pylons. And I think that would solve the problem until such time as the province or the daycare themselves come up with a plan. So that would be my suggestion, but I'm more than happy to go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calver.
No, thank you, through your worship. I was just going to suggest that because they are interlocking and you're only talking 7 spaces, you could throw those Jersey barriers in there, and it's still easy to plow around. It's easy to maintain, easy to look at, and it's definitely going to stop anybody. Because anybody pulling into a parking space, there was 3, I think, last week where people hit their own houses and stuff, medical conditions, heart attack, stroke, whatever. It can happen. Thank God it's never happened, but it could happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Go ahead, Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, I like the mayor's suggestion of having the building department have another look at this, because I do know that other patrons of the Legion, for example, use those parking spaces. ABS Bookkeeping uses them occasionally, customers of theirs. I've used them myself down there. So 7 dedicated parking spots. Did they have 7 staff at any one time? Did they? Okay. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. That's it.
Thanks, Bill. Councilor Hicks.
Through you, Your Worship, I'm envisioning the property, and I know that the outdoor play area is fenced. So the Jersey barriers, are you talking about putting them in the actual parking spots to prevent them from being used? Or are you talking about putting them at the head of the parking spot between the fence and okay, thank you. Because I couldn't see the point in actually removing the 7 parking spots. Okay, thank you.
No.
Space permitted to put them next to the fence. Okay, thanks.
Great, thanks, Councilor Hicks. Is there anything else? Seeing none, I think we will be looking for a motion, or at least some guidance, that council receive for information executive service daycare parking request, and further that council authorize staff to work with Kids Mondo Child Care Center to identify an appropriate compliance plan for the Ministry of Education's direction regarding parking stalls adjacent to the daycare facilities as it applies to the town-owned parking lot located at 22 Mill Street East, which may include appropriate protective infrastructure to be installed, with such installation to be overseen by the town. Now, we don't want to bore the cost on the center at this point if it's going to be temporary. Am I guessing that right? So if it's temporary, at the cost of the municipality until we get further guidance? Is that what we're looking for? And Jess, do you have what you need?
Through your worship, I believe so. So council's direction would be for town staff to install some sort of temporary protective infrastructure at the town's cost, pending further direction from the ministry. And if some arrangement cannot be reached, we'll report back to council at the earliest possible opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that'd be appropriate. And we're hoping that the Ministry of Education, I think is where the letter come from, is going to provide guidance to the daycares with respect to what is going to be needed for them to operate a safe facility, I'm guessing. Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So just through you, Mr. Mayor, just for a point of clarity, for my understanding and our understanding is I believe what council is also saying, it's these barriers in place of exclusive use of the parking lots. That's what I think it is. We're placing barriers and it's not exclusive parking. It's protective barriers in place of exclusive parking.
And I think that's exactly what we're looking for is that I don't see where exclusive parking is going to make it any safer because, I mean, an employee that may decide to go for a cup of coffee and come back and pull in the parking lot, if we don't have the barriers in theory, they could have a medical emergency and go through the front anyway. So the only thing that's going to ensure that there's safety there is to have some form of barrier. And I don't think pylons will work, but obviously that's the suggestion by some people, but to have some type of barrier that will at least slow down a vehicle before it goes through the facility. Councillor X.
Thank you, through your worship. So we're going to notify the staff of Mondo Kids World that those are not exclusive parking spots. The signage has to come down. We're going to put the Jersey barriers up, and that is, if I'm not mistaken, is it 2-hour limited parking, just like anywhere else in town?
So through your worship, our bylaw states, I believe, that our parking lots are 8 hours.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything further? And Jessica, I think you have what you need. As you are typing feverishly.
So through your worship, do you want me to read the motion as I believe it is? Did you want me to reread the motion out?
Oh, sorry, Jess. Is everybody good with the motion? Jess can reread it if you want. But if everybody's good, I think we all understand that we'll put some temporary barriers up there until such time as the ministry has figured out what they think is appropriate for these facilities to protect the children. So I think we're good. Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Councillor Martin. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Opposed, motion's carried. Executive services encampment cleanup costs, and you're going to speak to that one as well, Jess?
So through your worship, this report is primarily for council's awareness and is a bit of a follow-up to the report that I brought you last week. We just wanted to make council aware that as the weather cools, as a number of our encampment sites that have been around in the summer are being abandoned, we are anticipating an increased burden to go in and do the work needed to safely remove those materials so that they don't stay in our parks. We are working with the finance team to identify areas where we can offset those costs. But because in 2025 budget, we didn't have a specific dedicated account for this, it is offsetting and making service cuts in other areas to make sure that work gets done. We will ensure that there is an appropriate budget put in place for this in 2026 now that we have a better sense of what those costs are going to be. So this really is just for council's awareness and to make sure that you were aware that this is something that we are going to be doing. It's not using extra funds. And if need be, we are going to do as much of this through staff labor as we can, but at a point that also cuts into your services when you take off a whole parks crew for a day to clean up something like this.
Great, thanks, Jess. Is there any questions or comments with respect to Madam Clerk's report or presentation? Councillor Shank, then I'll go to Councillor X.
Not just, they say another 12 to 17,000. Is that we used it once or twice or 3 times before that?
So through your worship, we did one cleanup so far in July. That one was about $2,000 plus HST. A lot of it involves hand picking a lot of discarded needles out of the brush in the parks.
Wow.
And that is why it is expensive and time consuming. So just based on the number that there are now and the number that we anticipate there could be before the end of the year, sort of took that number and multiplied it out.
All right. Now, is there any way using a magnet might be cheaper or more safety wise? You know what I mean? If you drop, no? Okay, I didn't know. I just.
Yeah, thanks, thanks, Mike. Go ahead, Ange.
I was going to make a motion to note and receive.
Motion to note and receive by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Growth and Infrastructure Council Resolution 38/25 Progress Update. Mr. Nobes, welcome, and whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Worship. So this is a follow-on report to the discussion that was held at the September 16th special session, where staff and council discussed the differences between transitional housing and rooming housing. And the direction of council was to communicate some specific concerns and seek answers to some questions regarding transitional housing to PELUS, and to report back, as well as develop bylaws to license and maintain a registry of rooming houses and group homes and transitional housing units within the parameters of the Municipal Act. So to date, following that meeting, staff have sent a letter to the county to inform them of the requests for information that council has made. And further, we would be looking to engage with county and PELUS staff to seek formal responses to the questions that council has raised. We're anticipating around 4 to 6 weeks for that to be wrapped up. So the next step would be to carry out council's wishes to develop licensing bylaw for rooming, transitional, and group homes. And that regime would be provided through the Municipal Act, which would encompass the town maintaining a registry of where these facilities are located and contact information solely for internal use, so that the town has a good line of sight on where these specific types of uses are located within the municipality. And having that contact information is going to be beneficial for any enforcement matters that might need to come about in the future. So the Executive Services Department is going to hold the licensing bylaw itself. There will be collaboration with Growth and Infrastructure and the fire departments in developing that licensing bylaw itself. So following development of that, staff would look to facilitate a public notification period where any comments from the public might be maybe made to council from relevant agencies or residents or property owners that council can take into consideration when deliberating on such bylaw. We would foresee that bylaw taking effect in early 2026 with a grace period of Q1 and Q2 of 2026 to allow people to sign up under such licensing program. We'd look to institute relatively low fees. There really wouldn't be a lot of staff effort in maintaining this registry and staff time involved in taking these licenses in and providing licenses where all applicable legislation is being adhered to. But we would look to set fines in the $200 to $500 range for any non-compliance with abiding by the licensing bylaw requirements. So this is just for council's awareness of the steps that we're looking to undertake and the general timelines associated. And I would be happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Great, thanks, Mike. Is there any questions or comments with respect to Mike's report or the presentation? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Growth and Infrastructure Council Resolution 384/25 Progress Update Report. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, second by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Growth and Infrastructure Parking Regulations, RFP. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Worship. So this is, staff are bringing this forward in tandem with Loyalist Township. So staff were contacted by Loyalist Township staff advising that they were going to be issuing a parking RFP to look at parking regulations within their zoning bylaw through a general housekeeping zoning bylaw update, which follows on the heels of their official plan update, which we're sort of in line with Loyalist Township in that we're updating our official plan. We'll need to update our zoning bylaw. And a component of that would be to look at parking regulations, parking ratios. So we requested that Loyalist draft the RFP such that if council had the desire to entertain executing a contract for this scope of work, that that council can do so. And if council does not wish to do so, then it would not hinder Loyalists' progress with such projects. So we saw an opportunity for some almost joint procurement and take advantage of economies of scale, as we're very similar municipalities in certain senses. So the intent of staff was to give council the outcome of this RFP, and with the understanding that we believe that there is a cost savings by working with Loyalist Township on this, although they'd be two separately reviewed and it's separate reports entirely, one for the town, one for Loyalist Township. We would, I think we really have the benefit of working with Loyalist and one single consultant on this to lower the overall cost. So if council does not wish to proceed with it, it's not going to hinder Loyalist, and we ensured that Loyalist drafted the RFP in that manner. So what this work would do is really focus on the town's specific needs for parking related to new developments. So right now, our parking regulations in our zoning are decades old. There's parking ratios based on certain broad brush types of land uses. And we've seen a number of instances where we've needed to dramatically amend parking requirements for certain types of land uses where there would have otherwise been a gross oversupply. So Goodyear, Waste Management, Quinny Detention Center, Atura Power, those types of uses. We've also had a number of comments from downtown property owners that feel that our current parking ratios for the residential units above downtown businesses are high. They're 1.5 spaces per unit per property. So meaning if somebody has 2 units in a building, they need to provide 3 parking spaces on their property for those residential units. We're hearing comments that a lot of the tenants, they're likely not to drive. They wouldn't need those parking spaces. They feel put out by having to provide some parking on their property or seek a joint venture with a separate property owner that might have a surplus of parking elsewhere, for example. So this would look at those aspects in detail. It would also look at overall size of parking stalls, driving aisles, and the overall geometry of parking spaces. And really the focus is to streamline development applications so that we're not bogging down proposals as they're coming forward with these sort of nuances, if at all possible. So it's really a matter of parking ratios and parking requirements have changed over time. Our requirements our regulations are quite old or dated. They need to be looked at. And we feel this would be a good way to get ahead of the curve on our general zoning bylaw update, which needs to occur within 1 year after passing our official plan. And this would form part of that overall zoning update. So it's kind of a precursor to that overall larger work. This work could precede that and then just be inserted into that overall update in the future when that's completed. The overall cost of the highest ranked proponent, there were 2. There was SEMA Group and JL Richards. They were very close in score and very, very close in cost. JL Richards was just slightly ahead of SEMA Group in this instance. So the town's associated cost would be $25,000, $201.83. Staff are proposing that 50% of this could be borne through development charges, and the balance could be made up for through the planning consultants operating budget. So we're not proposing any modifications or additional ask beyond what's been budgeted to date, and there would not be a levy impact as a result. So staff are open to having hearing any comments, questions, or concerns of council related to this, and happy to answer those questions.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Is there any questions? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Carver.
Thank you, through your worship. Is this something we couldn't do in-house with our own planning department, Mike? Mr. Noble, sorry?
Through your worship, the amount of time that it would take to get this right and the amount of public consultation, it would bog us down. It's something that we could do. It would just take a lot longer, I would say. We'd have to fit this in and around reviewing new applications and the general work that we're doing day to day. It's not something that could not be done. It would just make the process of our general zoning bylaw update take a lot longer, I think.
Okay, thank you. I thought we hired a planner to be able to do some of the stuff. It just, another $25,000 for a study is kind of mind-boggling. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Carver. Councillor Hicks.
Thank you. Through you, your worship. I'm going to say that this is probably a review at the very least is long overdue. And I think based on what did we have? 5,000 people in downtown Greater Napanee just this past Saturday. It's not like that every day, but parking was at a premium because every single parking spot in the downtown core was taken up. So are we looking, so this is going to be looking at new proposed development, the number of new homes being built, and is it looking at parking throughout the entire municipality, not just specifically downtown? So everywhere. I will say, as the driver of a mid-sized sedan, I will absolutely not accept smaller parking spots. They can't be any smaller than what they already are. We're not all driving Austin Minis, so I can see there's no impact to the budget. It's development charge, and the existing budget would cover the deficit from the whatever's not covered. I am in favor of having this review done, and that's where I'm going to leave it.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, through your worship. Exactly. So this would not, we don't anticipate this having any budget impact. What we had budgeted for planning consultants, we have not needed to use nearly that this year because we have hired a planner. So that amount that we say could have used up to, we're not anywhere close to that. So this is I'll say an added benefit of having a registered professional planner in-house. We're not needing to go out for a pre-consultation matter where on a larger project where we need to bring in a planner from, a consultant planner. In that case, we have one in-house. In this case, it's a little more involved and it would take more bandwidth away from Mr. Nanton on a day-to-day basis. That's where we see some benefit in this, and without a budget impact, I think we're in a good spot to do it, I think, at this point. And yes, it would be holistic throughout the municipality.
Yep, go ahead, Ange.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just as a follow-up, when you refer to Mr. Nanton, I look at him as bringing money in, not spending money. And that's where the value in that position lies, is freeing up your time, of course, but also I have to say I've been quite impressed with his reports. He's very thorough, very detailed, and it's income, it's revenue for the municipality every time he comes with minor variants, et cetera. So that's where his time needs to be spent. And as you said, on the matters where we would bring in a consultant, he's already dealing with that, and we're saving that. So this seems to me to be a very specific area of expertise. So I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
Just so I read this correctly, so our total cost to us is $25,201, correct?
Correct.
I was kind of hoping that you can read it two different ways, that it was 12,600. You know what I mean? But it's 25,201. Dealing with planners for a lot of years, and personally, if they don't know, they go on the website and they copy and paste and change a couple of names, and the way we go, there's got to be another municipality. I talk to Dave, see how much time it would take. I'm not in favor of it right now, and say, hey, what can you do? Is there any way? Because We know what we've cost, you know, you know what I mean? I gotta disagree with you some of the times, Mike, you know what I mean? But all I'm saying is I understand your thought process behind it, but I would talk to Dave saying, seriously, is there any way that you go ahead and what can you do here rather than the $25,000? The only reason why is in the downtown, you know, the parking issues are gonna be, you know, another issue. And there might be properties, there might be other things where we're gonna have to do some expenditures, all right, for the parking that's down there. So I hate to go ahead and spend any money right now, all right, for something that I might need later. If we can do it in-house with the planner that we have, and if we have takes us another year to have a parking study, how many times does it come? You know what I mean? Then so be it, you know what I mean? Or whatever the length of time. But I would just kick it back to David and say, hey, Matthew, have a talk with him and see if we could save 25 grand. That's just my thought process right now.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Mike. Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll just, I think I'll reiterate what Mr. Nobes was talking about. Every year there is a certain amount of money that's allocated to professional planning services because it's anticipated that there'll be amount of work beyond what we can when handled in-house. As Mr. Mose has mentioned, that number has gone down, I would say, fairly significantly. So we've already realized that sort of benefit. I would say that taking on this project, which is not currently necessarily in the work plan, will have knock-on effects elsewhere. So I don't think it'll be a matter of fitting it in. I think it'll be a matter of knocking something else out to accommodate this would be my suggestion. And that's, of course, council's privilege. I think with something like this, the opportunity cost for 25,000 and sharing it with another municipality, I don't think it's overly expensive for the kind of study that you're getting. I think it is anticipated within the budget, and I would be surprised if we didn't have unspent sums in planning consultant work. By bringing on a registered professional planner, we anticipated to spend less, and indeed we have spent less, but it doesn't mean we're not going to spend anything.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Councillor.
Just one further question for Michael. Thank you, Your Worship. When they're in town, and I'm assuming this is boots on the ground, and they're walking the streets and they're looking at the properties and they're looking at the vacant lots and they're looking at the traffic flows, et cetera. When they're looking at the vacant lots, do they make a recommendation in their study, even if it's not municipally owned property, that it would perhaps be an ideal spot for a party? And I'm not naming any lots. I'm just asking the question.
Through your worship, we can certainly make that added request. I mean, it's not outside the overall scope of the project, so I think that's something that could be easily added. Most likely within the dollar figures that we're looking at in front of us. But yes, if the intent of the question is, we know we want more public parking and we have a couple of ideas on where that might work on a couple properties, can the consultant give an opinion to that effect? I think the answer to that would be yes.
Things like 2 levels of parking in the existing municipal lot behind the TD Bank. I don't know if that's possible, but it would be interesting to find out, because that would add a lot of parking to the core downtown. So, and I'm thinking Lions Park. That's not really a parking lot. It's just some gravel next to some grass. So that could also be perhaps improved. But yeah, I'm in favor. I'll make the motion.
Yep, thanks, Ange. I'll get back to you. I think Councillor Nari's got a question.
Mr. Dobes, do we have to do it this year? You said a year within the other thing, or is it because loyalists do it, we want to jump in with them? Because I'm having trouble struggling with this 25 grand because we're just putting 30 into an election and just keeps adding up and we're near the end of our term. So I'm just curious, can it wait till next year?
Through your worship, it certainly can. Yeah, absolutely. I just think we'll miss out a little bit on economies of scale. That's all. If council chooses to not proceed with loyalists, we'd have to issue a new RFP and we would likely see an elevated cost as a result. But yeah, the answer to that question is it can wait. Yes.
Thanks, Councillor Nari. Councillor Shank.
I still say that I'd kick it back to Dave. Sure, something might get kicked out, but the point is sure, we hired a planner so we could save, so our consulting fees must be as high. But I don't want to go back up that road again, saying, well, you know what, we need to have this, but we can outsource it. But if he needs to, if he kicks something else out that might not be as urgent, and he has a year to do it, you know what I mean? And fill in the space in between to go ahead and do that, and we can save that 25 grand. We'll save that 25 grand. You know what I mean? Of just doing it in-house. All right, that's the reason why if you have a whole year, sorry, that's, there we go. We can't agree with everybody all the time, so have a nice day.
Thanks, thanks, Mike. Is there, and go ahead, Deputy Mayor Cower.
Thank you, through your worship. To Ellen, actually, they were looking at paying this out of DC charges or a half of it out of DC charges. What kind of DC reserves are we at right now?
Probably much healthier than it's going to be in the very near future when we start really putting some money into a
Well, and that-
wastewater treatment plant.
And
but-
I'll just continue. I just want to say, we know we have a budget coming up and there's always wants and wishes out of DC charges. And if this is something we can put off, I think we should put it off until next year type thing. Because like you say, there's going to be a whack more coming for sure.
Yeah, and as Ms. Hamill is looking that up, maybe I can, Michael, just a quick question. Was some of this work captured within the official plan at all? Like, or am I, is that, we wouldn't have addressed any of this?
Through worship, no. So the OP is very high level. I'll say this is getting into the weeds through the zoning. Yeah. So it's two separate and distinct pieces of policy document.
Yeah, okay, thanks. No, I just didn't know whether it may have captured some of this so that would take some of the work off of somebody else's plate, but evidently not, so. Go ahead, Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Michael, do we have a specific problem that we're trying to rectify, right? Like, is it an immediate situation that we're trying to correct, or what? Is this future?
Through worship, it's more future than immediate. We have had in recent times a lot of comments, I'll say. There's been a decent number of new residential units installed in the downtown area, above ground floor commercial. And a lot of the commentary coming back is, oh, I don't have that amount of parking space on my property. This is really going to impact me being able to do this, right? So what this review would look at is there merit in dropping that ratio down? Is it going to cause issues with more parking on the street during winter operations? Is it, can we look at, certain instances where in the downtown we can really drop that ratio because it's a little more likely that somebody may not have a car, the odd tenant may not have a car, that sort of thing. That's what this review would look at.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Martin. Go ahead, Alan.
Thank you for your patience, Council. It's approximately around $8 million collectively through all the pockets of DC charges.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cower. Go ahead, Councilor Hicks.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the key word here is future. So we just spent $75 million on a new wastewater treatment plant so that we can have the potential to add 4,000 residential units to our town. And yes, they will all likely have a designated parking spot for 1/2 vehicles. But when y'all want them to go somewhere and spend their money in Napanee, or they've got family coming to visit, where are they going to park? Because if they're out in Cherrywood, I guarantee you they're not going to walk with their small children all the way to downtown Napanee. So to me, this is looking at the future and making provisions for the future. Spending the $25,000 now will probably save a lot of headache and a lot of money 5 years from now when that wastewater plant is done and we have new houses being built and we need provision, we need to make provision. Now we need to have a plan. We've seen what happens when you don't plan soon enough for things. And I think the sooner we start planning, the better. If we have $8 million in reserves, we're talking about taking out $13,000. And the balance comes from the consultant's budget that we haven't spent any money on because we now have an in-house planner whose specialty is not parking studies. I could be wrong, but there's a reason why we went out for an RFP. So those are just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
So Michael, this parking study is basically like, we had a couple of, semi-detached that wanted ahead and they wanted one lot, but we needed 2 parking spots in there. That's what it's gonna look at. It's not gonna look geographically how many parking spots you have in the downtown. Is that what it's gonna do? Because we had about, I think it was at maybe 10 or 12 years ago, they did a parking study of what we had and what we could do and what the time limits were and everything else for that. But you're doing more of, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, sorry, Mike, that you're more of the planning issues, like if you have a multi-res on top of a commercial unit, like you said, all right, are they allowed instead of 1.5, all right, spots per resident, that it could be less? That's what you were looking at, like some of the other planning issues that we had where we had high density and there was only 1 parking spot, but we needed more parking spot rather than keeping them off, to keep them off the street. So that's what you were looking at, correct?
Through your worship, yeah, yes, correct. It's a bit of both though. So in order to inform the required amount of parking on private property in the downtown, for example, they're going to need to look at, well, what public parking is available that can be considered for potential leases, right? In that instance, although we're not doing it now, maybe it's an option that the consultant can look at and say, hey, if you look at leasing out a couple spaces here and there, you might be able to justify dropping the ratio and help people out to put more units in. So they'll need to take an inventory of what public parking is truly available downtown. So it's a mixture. The overarching theme is for development, new development, but yes, there will have that knock-on effect to look at that in a sense.
The only reason why I'm saying that is I know that what is parking, you've had increased parking in certain areas, all right, that the landlords have been gracious enough to open those areas up, but everything else basically well stayed the same. So that's why I was saying, no, I'm still under the belief that we could do it in-house. So I was trying to, I always look at the other side. So there we go. No, there we go.
Thanks, Councillor Shank. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're looking at possibly reducing the number of parking spaces required, are you not, as well as public parking spots? Like in our planning for granting building permit for to build a building, for example, instead of requiring X number of parking spots, maybe 1 or 2 less.
Through your worship, exactly. Yeah, exactly that.
Thanks, Councillor Martin. Is there anything else? Just quickly, again, Michael, the reason obviously we're discussing this tonight is because Loyalist has already gone out for the RFP. They've got a price on it. I think from the discussion that I heard is that there really isn't any urgency here with respect to this study, with the exception of the fact that Loyalist is ready to go. And that's really the only urgency. And I know I'm going to ask you a question that you don't have the answer to, so I'm reluctant to do that. But if we were to wait, obviously we do have money in a consultant fund that we're probably not going to use between now and the end of the year, so that'll get carried over. We may or may not add more to that through the next budgeting process. Is there any urgency? The only urgency is that we're going to try and save money. That's the only urgency, but we don't know. We don't know how much we're going to save, right? We have no idea. I mean, if we went out to an RFP just simply for the town of Greater Napanee, I guess what you're saying is that it's going to cost more than 25,000, or it could cost more than 25,000, or we just don't really know.
Through your worship, it's highly likely that it would cost more than 25 without actually going to RFP. Hard to say. But the efforts of the consultant is I'll say being split, would be split between Loyalist and Napanee, and that therein would be the economies of scale. So if we were to not do this, wait a year and do this in a year's time, I would presume we would see an increase beyond 25, but I don't know to what specifically. So if council has the appetite to carry over and transfer to a reserve to pull out next year to do this study, for example, and if council has the appetite to accept a little higher cost, that's absolutely council's decision.
Yep, great. Thanks. Thanks, Michael. Is there anything else? If not, we will entertain a motion and we'll see where that goes. Council Hicks, you're going to make the motion that staff recommendation?
Yes, that we proceed with the joint study with Loyalist.
Great. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Martin. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? 3-2. That means I have to vote, Madam Clerk, or defeated out of the way. So the motion is defeated.
Sorry, through your worship, the treasurer has just asked that if council would give consideration to a motion that any unspent money in 2025 related to consultant fees be transferred into reserves at the end of the year.
I think that's probably a wise idea. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just if that's the direction that council's looking to go, it would, that's not an automatic given that would happen. So if that's the direction that council's going, I would just like that included in the resolution. It would be helpful.
We'll need a second motion then, Madam Clerk. I think that is probably a responsible way of doing it. So do you have a suspected or a projected motion for that we put that money back into reserves, Madam Clerk, for 2026?
Through your worship, I believe the motion would just be to receive this report for information and further council direct any unspent planning operating funds related to consultant fees be transferred to reserves at the end of the year.
Yep. Do we still need to reserve? We've already received it for information. That through the other motion.
Well, technically you defeated the motion, so you didn't.
Very, very true. Thank you. So we do have a motion or suspected or suggested motion from Madam Clerk. Does somebody want to move that? Moved by Deputy Mayor Cow, seconded by Councillor Shank. And go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. So just for my clarification, and I don't know if Mr. Nobes needs this as well, but Mr. Nanton will not be obligated to undertake any sort of parking study as part of his regular duties, shifting other work elsewhere. The parking study is completely off the table until 2026. Do I understand that correctly?
That's my understanding because it's not included in the motion. I'm sure that Mr. Nanton is probably watching, but I'm sure that if an opportunity arises itself, that he will probably work on that, but that's not part of the motion. You're absolutely right. So,
Thank you.
okay. Do we all know where we're at, I guess? We do have a motion on the floor, Madam Clerk. We'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried. CAO mandate letter progress report. Mr. Grant, you're going to speak to that?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, Mr. Mayor, and members of council. So it's been a while since we have visited mandate letters. So I'm going to give you an update just on where we're at in terms of completed projects. You also have on the list projects that are in flight, so to speak, and some that are still pending. It is my intention to forthwith include these in the update that we're giving on resolutions in general every 2 months. And those updates will include priority 1 resolutions, which are anything that council has asked us to do that is specifically a council idea. Priority 2 would be organizational improvements that are approved in the mandate letters. And 3 is everything else. And so my goal is to give this updates more frequently. Okay, so over the past many months, we've been working on the mandate letters, which were approved in February 2025. Council may remember that the CAO's mandate letter is high-level goals. And then I have issued mandate letters to every member of senior leadership, which are we'll call operational targets. My specific goals are prioritizing financial sustainability and responsible management of assets, creating predictable organizational behavior, standards, policies, and systems, continued development of a supportive and mutually accountable culture, and prioritizing open and transparent communication to council and the community. Each of those has general goals. So over the past 8 months, we've done quite a bit of work. A lot of that has been in the areas of financial sustainability. I'll give a high level of the completed work, but council may recall that a tiered response agreement has been completed by the fire department. We're seeing a pretty significant reduction in calls with respect to that. There has been the standardization of capital asset planning. You will recall that growth and infrastructure services and legislative services have completed a suite of activities with respect to lands, including a land registry bylaw. We've hired a residential real estate agent of record. We also have a comprehensive land registry, and council has indeed approved a surplus list. Growth and infrastructure is in the process of preparing, a system for corporate capital assets, mainly focused on fleet, facilities, and roads. And a manager has been hired for that. And council has indeed approved the use of AVL trackers within all town vehicles, which will allow us to track not only how far they've gone, where they are, but maintenance records and the like. It will really help us with replacement. In terms of the predictable workforce goal, we have completed a review of the Parks Bylaw and Encampment Protocol, which has been quite successful this year, I would suggest. Fire Department has completed their service standards. Parks and Recreation has completed their service standards. Fire Department has developed and presented and received approval for a new governing fire services bylaw. And the Fire Department has developed, presented, and received approval of community risk assessment. In terms of supportive and accountable culture, Human Resources has received approval and is now in place a staffing complement control policy. And by way of review of that, it clearly articulates what I as CAO am able to do and what council has authority over. And if there's any budget impact or change in service levels, it's you. If it's the same service levels and same budget, but we're moving things around for organizational improvements or efficiencies, it's me. We have also put in place a staff conflict of interest policy, and you will recall that was a recommendation in the KPMG review. And we also have a pay equity policy in place. And most recently, after conducting a community stakeholder and communication survey under transparent communication, we were able to present and have passed and are now in the process of implementing a corporate communications strategy. There are a number of items that were also in progress, and I won't go through that list, and some that are still on the list. What I would say at this point is, in addition to receiving this particular update, given workload schedules, particularly with the need to have a by-election, which will have work impact, I'm seeking council endorsement and authorization to remove a legal services RFP from the scheduled operational targets. We'll still put in process and procedure to make sure that we fine tune how legal reviews and legal services are accessed. But I would suggest that I don't believe, given the extra workload, we have the capacity to do that. I would like to remove, and I believe we need to remove from digital service improvements at this time, building services and focus on planning. Building requires a little bit more work with permitting, a little more certainty around the corporate systems that we're going to be using, but I am apprised that we'll be able to move forward with planning on that. And that for workload issues, we remove the sidewalk bylaw from operational targets, but I would say that the encroachment bylaw passed by council will alleviate many of those concerns that the sidewalk bylaw would have accomplished. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions on where things are at and the recommendations I presented to you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Grant. Is there any questions or comments with respect to Mr. Grant's presentation or the report that's before us this evening? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the mandate letter update report, and further that council endorse the removal of legal services RFP from scheduled operational targets, and further that council endorse the removal of digital service improvements to the building services and focus on digital enhancements to planning for this term of council. And further that council endorse the removal of the sidewalk bylaw from the operational targets due to workload issues and the fact that the encroachment bylaw can deal with many of the same concerns. Moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Martin. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Councillor Hicks.
Well, it's been a heck of an 8 months, so good job, everybody. That's it. That's all I have.
Thanks, Ange. Is there anything else? Seeing none, we'll call. Oh,
Could
yep, go ahead, Bill.
I just say, with this report, it looks like you've been extremely busy. All the staff have been busy. You've accomplished an awful lot, so kudos to everybody.
Thanks, Bill. Well said. Is there anything else? Seeing none, we do have a motion on the floor. We'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion is on the floor. Opposed? Motion's carried. Financial and IT services, personal use of cell phone report. Ms. Hamel, I think you're going to speak to that first.
Thank you, Your Worship. So council has a report in front of them this evening regarding the personal use of corporate cell phones. And this came as a result of our conversations that we had during our discussions on cross-border policies. And there was a resolution passed by council that asked staff to report back on our current practices of having work cell phones used for personal use and what the implications are of continuing or discontinuing that practice. So staff, Dave and myself, engaged in consultations with members of SLT and CLT to get their feedback and understandings of what the operational implications of making a shift could be if that was the direction that council chose to take. And the report highlights in detail what those operational impacts would be. Some of them, just to highlight some of the key points that we heard. Primarily, this is a long-standing practice that's largely ingrained in our corporate culture and in our operations. So the use of personal cell phones has virtually always been allowed, or at least in the last 20 plus years. So it's very much ingrained in the way that both our operations work and the way that our staff use those devices for personal use. It is we have a lot of current communication relationships with our direct reports, and staff are finding that that's working very well the way that the system is designed right now, and a shift would likely disrupt that communication that we have on both sides, both from our staff and from our management. When we looked at the costs of making this change, there are some costs, although they are limited. We are paying for these devices for our staff, whether or not they are using them for personal use. So there really isn't a significant cost change to the municipality. There are some overage charges or some charges above our base charge, but it's still difficult to determine whether or not that's personal use or that's extended use for corporate business. Again, the whole like taxable benefit piece that changed during COVID, so there's no requirement for that to be deemed a taxable benefit to employees. So there's no legislative implications of having it used for personal use from a tax perspective. Although it may be deemed kind of a minor, it was brought up like the physical carrying around of two phones, especially for our workers on our outside facilities, that can be challenging or perhaps frustrating. We did discuss the logics around still be able to meet the legislative requirements and the right to disconnect. Every employee, of course, has the option. They're not required to only carry a personal phone or a work phone, sorry. We have staff that do both. I would say primarily most people do only use one phone, but there are certainly people that choose to do both and always have that right to be able to physically disconnect if they so choose. And of course, there are the security implications that come with this. All of the data that is on the phone is owned by the municipality, and as such, those phones and all of the things that are on them are FOIable, for example. So staff need to be aware of the implications that are attributed to using it both for personal use and for corporate use. So the report goes through all of these in more detail, but we are happy to take any questions that council has. And at this point, this is an informational report, and we're just looking if there's any further direction that council has for us on this topic.
Great, thanks, Ellen. Deputy Mayor Cower.
Thank you through your worship. I appreciate all the work you have done on this. It's an amazing report. Personally, I just, we're in an electronic world and everybody needs to have a phone available. I don't see where there's any benefit of discontinuing what we've been doing for the past 20 plus years. I think we should just stay status quo and continue on the way we are. We have things in effect if somebody does take the phone across the border, and there's roaming charges, as I've seen here in the report. It's what, $54,000 annually, and we paid like $2,000 in extra charges because somebody took their phone across the border. Was it for training? Was it for personal? Who knows? There's so many things built in as far as security and everything anymore. I don't foresee any risk factor there. So I think we should just leave it status quo and continue on the way we have for the past 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cower. Is there Councillor Hicks?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Yeah, I used my personal phone for work, not the other way around. So I get it, and it's convenient, it's handy, and I would have been very upset if I'd been told I couldn't do that. When it comes to travel, and this is a question for Mr. Nicholson, when it comes to travel, would it be possible if an employee was going to travel somewhere warm and sunny for 2 weeks and they wanted to take their phone, they're not working, they don't need to have anything, can a SIM card be simply swapped out so that they have the actual device with a phone number? I mean, I've got 2 numbers on my phone. I don't carry 2 devices. But is that something that could be done, be provided as just a safeguard, if you will, against our municipal information, corporate information falling into the wrong hands?
Through you, Your Worship, that's effectively the cross-border policy that we did put in place. So we provide the loaner phones. We switch the SIMs from your town phone into the loaner phone. We're happy for you to load your personal information on those phones. They get deleted, cleaned afterwards, so long as no town data is put on that loaner phone. You'd be in compliance with the policy. So yes, absolutely, that's something we can do.
Then I see absolutely no reason why we can't continue. And just, I'm going to ask another question. How often in your experience that you've been with the municipality has a phone been lost or stolen? Not dropped in the swimming pool or over the side of a boat, because that can happen anywhere, but actual lost while traveling or stolen?
Through your worship. So I'm in my 12th year, and certainly it's probably less than 5 phones that have been lost or stolen in that time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Counselor Hicks. Is there anything else, Counselor Shank?
So it comes to $54,000 and we have 86 phones out, correct? So 86, how many full-time employees we have?
Ballpark 100?
100? So there's 14 people that don't have phones. So 86 people have it, and it comes to $627 per basically phone. Now, and how many of those phones, how many of those personal people or workers have overages? You know what I mean? Because it's still, you have to understand, like, there's always benefits, and then they get more benefits and more benefits, and I don't see anything ever getting cut. Not that I'm being a penny pincher or anything else like that, but if you have some employees that go ahead and say, here, kids, watch this, and I'm way over data because I don't care, the town's gonna pay for it. Well, there's gotta be checks and balances for everything. So here's somebody that goes ahead and uses very limited, but here's somebody else that abuses it. So the people that go over, all right, and you can substantiate, you can tell by looking at your usage, what it's being used for, all right, that you can go ahead and say, hey, you know, you're abusing it, you're gonna be paying the bill if you're gonna go over. You know what I mean? There's gotta be some checks and balances to what they use and what they don't use. You know what I mean? And if they're gonna be taking a phone and say, here, is there any way you can give me a phone? Because I'm going down to Florida for a week, but you know what? Chris is not gonna phone me anyway because I'm in Florida. What am I gonna do? You know what I mean? So that's just another perk. It's a benefit. All right. So that's where I think, you know what, that's like, where does workplace stop? And because does that mean anybody else that's a benefit? So therefore, how many other people that are residents that are paying this bill, all right, for somebody to go ahead and take a work phone to Florida or somewhere else, all right, at their expense? You know what I mean? So you have your own personal phone. I don't mind, okay, you have 86, so only 600, but it's still $627. But the people that are running over and they're abusing the system, there has to be a checks and balances on those people. That's what I'm saying. All right. And there's got to be some cost. If you want to have a phone, yeah, we'll provide the phone, but you got to pay the bill.
Yep, go ahead, Dave.
Through your worship. So the current policy, which does need review, actually allows for cost recovery for personal use of those types of expenses. So where there are roaming charges incurred for somebody going on vacation rather than for a work purpose, it is covered in the policy.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Counselor Shank. Go ahead, Counselor Hicks.
Thank you, through you, your worship. We're with Rogers, correct?
Correct.
And we have a corporate plan. And I'm assuming it's standard for everyone, the amount of data, unlimited texting, talking, cross Canada, probably no US in there, because why would somebody in Public Works need to phone anybody in the US? Okay. Can you tell me though, what is the data plan?
Through your worship. Sorry, is what's the question?
So what is the data plan on a municipal phone?
It's unlimited. It is unlimited. So it's a tiered program that we're in. So basic operation of the phone with up to, I believe, about 6 gigs of data costs us around about $30 per month. That scales up once you go over that, you go into the unlimited bracket, which costs us around $50 per month. And the price is capped, the usage isn't. For international travel, certainly to the US, we get the same roam as home type programs, which run at around about, I believe, between $10 and $15 per day. And that literally, as it says, roam from home. So it's the same charges as if you were sitting here right now would be incurred for those long distance or data use.
Okay, so I have my counselor phone number on here, but I pay my phone bill. You don't pay it. I pay any overages on the data. You don't pay it. Like you, as in the municipality, not you personally, Mr. Wilson. Just to clarify that, because I choose not to carry 2 telephones. And I can certainly understand why any employee wouldn't want to carry 2 telephones. There's days where I was directing transportation and arranging medical appointments for my children. So, and it's all done on one device and it's just much easier. So I'm certainly in favor of keeping it status quo if there's provisions for and policies for capturing cost recovery and for travel. If those are covered, I'm good.
Great, thanks, Counselor Hicks. Is there anything else? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the financial and IT services, personal use of cell phones report and which outlines the current practice of permitting incidental personal use of corporate cell phones, the implications of continuing or discontinuing this practice, and the associated operational, financial, and risk considerations. Moved by Councilor Hicks, seconded by Councilor Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed, motion is carried. Thanks, folks. And it's 8:35. I think we'll take a 10-minute break as legislated in our policy. So we'll see you at 9. Great. Thank you folks for your indulgence. We'll continue on with our agenda. Next up is the Town of Greater Napanee Blue Box Transition Report. Number 7, Blue Box Materials at Waste Disposal Sites, Depots, 2026-2028. And Christy, I think you're going to speak to that one. The floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you. Through your worship. As you're likely all aware, on January 1st, 2026, our municipality will be transitioning as part of the Blue Box transition. Originally, it was anticipated that we would no longer accept recyclable material at our municipal waste disposal sites, so the Roblin and South Fredericksburg waste disposal site. But as of late last week, we received notice from Circular Materials Ontario that they will be looking to continue servicing those sites with the current recycling contractor that we've been using for the current transitional year. And as part of that, they are looking to offer some reimbursement funding for covering some of the operational costs. So within this report, there's a bit more detail, but ultimately tonight, we're just looking for council's support to enter into an agreement with CMO for 3 years, beginning January 1st, 2026, through until the end of December 31st, 2028. Again, that's for them to service the waste disposal sites, Roblin and South Fredericksburg, for Blue Box Materials in the coming years.
Great. Thanks, Christy. Is there any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Norrie.
So simply, I'll move staff recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Norrie. We have a mover with respect to this, which is staff recommendation. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Hicks. Is there any comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the report that's in front of us or the presentation from Ms. Kelly? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed, motion is carried. Next matter, Waste Diversion Advisory Committee recommendation, special tax levy. And Madam Clerk, are you going to speak to this first?
So through your worship, just before there is any consideration on this report, just for the room's awareness, staff did note today that one item that should have been captured within this report is that there is already a resolution on the books, resolution number 448/24 from December, which included further that council direct that bag tags continue to be funded through a special tax levy and mailed out with the tax bills in January for the remainder of this council's term. What that means is in order for council to consider or debate this report or do anything other than receive this report from the committee for information, council would first need to have a motion to reconsider resolution number 448/24. That reconsideration motion opens the topic back up for discussion, but doesn't guarantee any further decision out of that. But yes, under a procedural bylaw, and the intent of those rules in the procedural bylaw is to avoid repeatedly having the same conversation over and over again. But if council wishes to consider this recommendation from the committee, first step is a motion to reconsider.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And the discussion that we have, if there is a motion put on the floor with respect to reconsider, the conversations should stay specific to whether or not to reconsider as opposed to digressing into other things. Am I correct there?
Through your worship, that's correct. The first matter would be simply a motion to reconsider that resolution from December of last year. And if that passes, then council could begin to debate the content of this report. Otherwise, if council does not wish to reopen this debate, the only option would be to receive this report from the committee for information.
Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll start off with receiving the report, and then we'll look for a motion to reconsider after that. So go ahead, Christy.
So at the August 20th Waste Diversion Committee meeting, the committee agreed to put forth a recommendation to council to consider removing the special tax levy for the curbside collection of garbage and recycling. as it's the committee's view that the levy does not effectively promote waste diversion within our community. And just for some background information, for everyone's awareness, the special tax levy for curbside collection of garbage and recycling was established to support the funding of curbside collection services for the town beginning in 2023. The levy was designed to provide a dedicated revenue stream for our curbside collection services, again, for both garbage and recycling materials. And over the past few years, it has helped offset our operational costs and maintain service levels for our residents. I just, from a staff's perspective, would like to add that it's worth noting that there are some budget variables coming up, particularly around the blue box transition, which again, in my previous report, I just noted that it's going to take effect for Greater Napanee in January of 2026. The process, as mentioned, it's been ever evolving. We just got another update late last week and could really change at any time. So there are a lot of unknowns with the future and budgeting towards what that's going to look like, especially for that first year post-transition. And as part of that blue box transition, we're also currently working with our waste contractor to amend our current curbside collection contract as a result of this blue box transition. So we just feel that changing the funding mechanism before gaining a full understanding of how these changes will affect our budgets might be premature. And I believe that's all I had to speak on at this point.
Great, thanks, Christy. Is there any questions or comments of Christy with respect to the report or the presentation that she's given us this evening? We almost had one, so thanks, Christy. What we will now look for is we need to have a motion to reconsider, since there's already a resolution with this council within the last 12 months, we need to introduce a motion to reconsider Resolution 44824. And with that, we'll have to get 2/3 of support. So then we can have some discussion with respect to the reconsidering of the motion. So Councillor Martin.
I will put that motion forward, Mayor, to reconsider number 448/24.
Great. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Norrie. Now is the opportunity for any comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor. Deputy Mayor Cower.
Thank you, through your worship. I know we talked about this back in December. We made a resolution. We got changes coming up for sure in our modeling of how things are going to be collected, what's going to be paid for, what isn't going to be paid for. I agree with what we just heard. With all the variables and unknowns, I don't think it's a wise decision to make any financial changes with what we have that is working. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cower. Councillor Norrie.
On that same vein, in December, we didn't know a lot. Now we know more. We've seen a positive thing with the recycling at our two garbage dumps, or what do you call them now. So I think we should have the discussion about that motion. Just hear what everybody says and rethink it, because times have changed a lot too financially for people. So that's just my thought.
Councillor Shank.
So just looking at this as a business perspective, that because I totally agree that because the business model is going to definitely change because recycling is being taken out. All right. What the contract, the staff will be presenting with council after waste management, that isn't a fruition yet, but all I'm saying is when we know that, I would agree that any benefits, in reduction would definitely be reflected on what is needed by this special tax levy that was specially brought in for that purpose. I agree with that. But to open this all back up, in 2024, from the report that I saw, it was $1.2 some odd million, and that would have been a 16.5% tax increase alone. I don't want to go down through the great things and the bad things, and no system is perfect, But until we know all the facts and figures of what we have right now, I still feel that this is the best model that we're using, and for paying the bill that is basically the cheapest for the majority. Some get in between, some isn't. I still have a ton of bags. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that can go either way. But until we know what those costs are, and as our expert has said, that through the recycling is changing weekly. So how can I agree with something that I don't know what might happen further down, and what would that reduction be? Right for it, because you know, there's going to be some type of reduction, but what that is, we don't know yet until we know the numbers. And then that should reflect back to what the charge for the special tax levy. That's what I feel. All right. So that's where I'll leave it at this. So I'm not going to be in favor of opening up and having the discussion yet.
Thank you, Councillor Shank. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. We seem to be having a discussion about it, even though it's only for the motion to reconsider, but I know, but
And we do have to have some
and I guess,
discussion without getting into the weeds, that we do have to have a discussion whether or not we want to reconsider, and the reason why or why not we need to reconsider. So there will be some discussion, but we don't need to get into the nitty-gritty discussions that we've had in the past. So sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but go ahead, Bill.
That's okay. Thank you very much. I just want everybody to realize that the reason that we're doing this tonight is because our Waste Diversion Committee put this resolution on the floor at the committee level. And that committee voted 100% in favor of that at the committee level. And what we're trying to do is to reduce garbage at the curb. And I mean, decades ago, Napanee went to the bag tag system. And the very first year, the tonnage was reduced by 30%. The second year was reduced by 40%. You know, I could go through, I've got 4 or 5 pages here of stuff I could read to you, but I won't. And the very reasons that Councillor Shank, I appreciate what he's saying, but the very reasons he stated is the reason we need to go back to the system we had. We've only been into this for like a year and a half. We did half of 23, we did 24, and now we're into 25. And just because we don't know what our bill is going to, we do know that that bill is going to be decreased. I'm looking at probably in the hundreds of thousands of dollars when the recycle is removed from that bill. So it's going to go down, even though we don't know exactly what it is, because we got to renegotiate our waste contract with Waste Management. That's no reason not to go back to our old system. And staff mentioned in here, which I don't agree with either, that there's going to be more staff time taken up talking to people on the phone, explaining the system. That just does not add up to me. I mean, people are going to have to call, and we're going to have to explain to them the new transition to the blue box system anyway. So there's not going to be any more staff time. And right now, there's staff time wasted on stuffing envelopes with bag tags. Staff has to discover who has a mortgage on their house, who doesn't, because you can't send the bag tags to the mortgage holder, the financial institution. So there's extra postage, there's extra envelopes. We're actually going to be paying more with the system we have right now than if we go back to our old system. It just doesn't make any sense to me or the Waste Diversion Committee. The Waste Diversion Committee has been trying and trying. We've been talking to other communities. The most impressive, by the way, example of bag tags working, the city or the town or city of Stratford, Ontario, when they went to bag tag system, their tonnage was reduced by 62%. But if you're going to have a bag tag Plus, you're going to force people to buy a bag tag, whether they need it or not. That does not reduce your tonnage. You've eliminated the incentive with a bag tag. So if you're going to have this special tax, you might as well get rid of the bag tags, because the bag tags are there as an incentive to reduce your garbage output. The Waste Diversion Committee feels that you produce more garbage, you should pay more garbage. You produce less garbage, you should pay less. And that's where the bag tag system comes in. So I don't know how I can convince everybody of that, but I like I said, I'm doing this because of the Waste Diversion Committee, and I don't see how that they're going to be overjoyed with not even have their reasoning considered. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank Councillor Martin. I think Christy wants to weigh in there. Go ahead, Christy.
Through your worship, I apologize. I just wanted to make something clear. It is within the report, but I didn't speak to it specifically. And I know some potential cost savings have just come up in these conversations here. I just want you to be aware that the resolution to continue the process until the end of 2026 is in place, but it doesn't allow for a specific amount for the special tax levy. So staff at the time of budget preparations, and we've already kind of begun looking at that, will identify any potential budget reductions or specific reductions to the special tax levy based on our upcoming costs or projections for again, the savings we might see as part of the Blue Box transition, or how we make it with an amendment to our current waste contract. So I just wanted to make that clear to everyone that while previously council had approved the process for the special tax levy, it's not a specific price, and we'll continue to look at that as we move forward with budget negotiations and that sort of thing.
Thanks, Christine. I think that's always been the intent, even though we've known this recycling expedition was coming. So the intent was always to reduce that if possible. So, but we will look at it once we have some numbers. Is there anything else before I weigh in? Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
I don't want to go down because I was just trying to make it fair for everybody. But we've gone down the road where it would be a combination of both. It wouldn't be just bag tags. It would be a combination of bag tags, the cost of the bag tags, and taxation. Now, everybody, we have a flat fee of what it costs for them to go past the door, whether you put out a bag or not. That was one of the things also. When we went through all that, now everybody must agree that if we increased it by, put a tax levy of, let's say just arbitrarily, 5%, just to look after bags, all right, because we only raise about $150,000, per percentage. So if you did 5%, 5% on $4,000 is a whole lot less than 5% on $25,000 or $30,000 that the taxpayers pay also. So why should somebody that's paying triple, and he puts out the same amount of bags, and then somebody that's only here for 2 or 3 weeks a year puts out 1 or 2 bags, and we're compensating them also. But I don't want to go down that road, but we've already been down that road. It's just that the motion's on the table right now for, reconsider, and then I'll just leave it at that. That was it. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Shank. Is there anything else before I weigh in? Go ahead, Councillor Warren.
I just want to make one or two more remarks. This policy that we have now, and I can't emphasize enough, a special tax levy eliminates the incentive for the bag tag. There's no point in having both. And the other remark I want to make is a tax is a tax is a tax. Garbage is going to be paid for, whether it's on the general levy, the special levy, but the policy we have now doesn't cover everybody. It only covers people in a single family home. So if you're a renter, you don't have to participate. You can choose to buy a bag tag when you need it. You don't have to be told by the town you're going to buy them anyways, whether you need it or not. So there's a lot to this, and I know Councillor Shanky said you don't want to go down this road, and then you go down the road. So I got to remark back. I'm sorry, but like I said earlier today to somebody, I'll always respect council's decision. But I'm adamant in this. I've researched other communities. There's 100 communities now. They've been adding communities with using the bag tag system, but not with a special levy. It's just the two things don't go together. One offsets the other. So I just wanted to make that remark, and I'll let the mayor go on now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin, and I don't think there's anyone here or anyone watching that would dispute your passion for garbage. Just to give the folks that may not understand where we've been with this, is back in the 19th of October, 2022, so prior to this election, the issue with respect to garbage and bag tags and everything was first brought up. There was a proposal for a levy to cover the base costs of curbside collection was first presented to this council in December of 2022. Since then, we've had discussions with respect to this matter on the 26th of January budget meeting, the March 16th budget meeting, the 30th of March budget meeting, the 25th regular council meeting, the 26th of October special meeting, the 16th of November budget meeting, the 6th December budget meeting. And that's just all in 2023. I think anybody watching would understand that we have discussed this to death. And if for 1 minute, I would think that we need to have a further discussion, I would support the motion that's on the floor, but I don't. The reason we've gone down this path is that in 2022, and I wish I had the numbers, but I know they're fairly close, is that we had an $850,000 deficit that went on the tax levy because we're that short, because the cost of bag tags, the purchases of bag tags wasn't covering the system. And so we've come up with a system, a special levy, which is supported by the Municipal Act. The Municipal Act says that we can do this. Supported by the Municipal Acts to have a special levy with respect to garbage. And that's the route that we've taken. We've made some great strides over the past year and a half or 2 years, I think, Christy, to the point where, and I think Ellen can tell us that we've been able to put some money into reserves for a rainy day for something that happens. If we're not quite revenue neutral, we may be close to being revenue neutral. So we've made some very great strides. We've had a lot of discussions about it, but I think we've made some very good strides. The concept of the levy suggests that the people that have access to the service will pay for the service. And that's what happens. So the people that have access to having garbage picked up in front of their house are paying for that service. I'll compare where it's not unlike the folks that have access to town water and sewer. The people that pay for that service are the ones that have access to that service. And just to use it as an example, I don't think it would be fair that if we charged somebody on 33 Highway for water and sewer because they don't get that service. And that's what this is. So I know that there's folks out there like you, Councillor Martin, that are absolutely dead set that this thing doesn't work. But in my humble opinion, I believe that it does. I've taken the opportunity to look at the tonnages over the last 4 years. So recycling calculation for the tonnages from the curbside in 2022 were 74.8. I apologize, I should have made this bigger. 74.8 tons over the course of the year. 2023, 74.23 tons. 2024, 77 tons. And so far in 2025, it's up to 82 tons. Will that stay at the 82 ton level? May or may not. But we're seeing a slight raise in the tonnage with respect to recycling. When you look at the garbage collection, the grade is very similar. which is 190 tons for garbage in 2022, 196 tons in 2023. 2024 is 190 tons. And as of so far in 2025, it's 208 tons. It's suggesting that folks are putting garbage and folks are putting recycle out to the curb in the very same manner as they have done for the past 4 years. I'm not seeing any spikes with respect to these numbers. I'm not seeing where people are all of a sudden filling garbage bags full of recycles. And this isn't the be all and the end all. This really isn't. This is just the numbers with respect to the tonnage. As much as I love having the conversation of garbage with you, Bill, and I know that we will continue to have this conversation in the not too distant future, I can't support reopening this, especially at a time where there's so many unknowns with respect to the contract that we have with our service provider, Waste Management. I think it would be to our advantage to continue on the path that we're on. I fully hope or expect that we're going to see some relief with respect to the special levy with respect to the garbage. It's not going to affect the number of garbage tags that we issue every year because of the levy. And so folks will still be getting, in my humble opinion, 50 garbage tags. But, and just to use a number that's out there, and we don't know this yet, so please don't take this to the bank, is that if we're able to get that levy to $150, you're going to see some relief with respect to the garbage because of the fact that the consumer isn't responsible for recycling. But we're still going to honor what we've done in the fact that we think it's important that we issue these tags to the folks that are paying the levy. For those reasons, and I'm going to give you an opportunity, Bill, trust me, for those reasons, I'm not prepared to support the motion that's on the floor. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor. No disrespect, but I wasn't going to ask for a recorded vote because if I did, you would get a chance to vote. Because right now, there's no way we can have a tie. But anyway, that's beside the point. A lot of what you're saying actually supports my thinking. You're trying to say that people who use the service should be paying. And they should, but a lot of people are not. You know, why do we only have special levy on single-family homeowners? Why are we charging landlords or building owners on Dundas Street? They have their own bin out back, but they still get charged a $200 levy. And that's not right either. And what do you say to the folks who only require 20 bag tags, 30 bag tags, and yet they're forced to buy 50? You know, you can make figures speak whatever way you want, but you got to be fair. When you have a tax system, you have to be fair. It has to apply to everybody equally the same way, and this one does not. The old system worked fine. I'll leave it there, but I don't, obviously you and I disagree on, but we can have these disputes and still laugh at each other. So that's good. Thank you.
No, you're absolutely right, Councillor Martin, and that's what democracy is all about. So I'm sure that we will continue to have these discussions well into 2026. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calver.
Thank you, through your worship. There's no doubt we all hear Councillor Martin's passion for sure. The tonnage that you've read off is very, very interesting. I'm one of those people that pay the $200 levy that do not use curbside collection. However, I do realize it's there if I choose to, but because I have my own dumpster, I don't use it. With that in mind, we have seen a huge decrease in our dumpster being filled up on a daily or nightly basis because people now have bag tags. And those that don't, like myself, when I see somebody's asking about extra tags, I send them a message, come and pick up 10 if you need them, because I don't use them. But I do see a decrease in the usage of other people using my dumpster, and for that I'm thankful for. And I believe probably most businesses around town that have dumpsters are probably seeing that same decrease, as well as seeing a lot less bags along the roadside in the countryside that we used to see quite frequently. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Councillor Hicks.
Thank you through you, Your Worship. If I recall correctly, back in 2023, the approximate number that was given out was of the $200 levy, 70% of that, so roughly $133, was for the truck. Nothing to do with what went in the truck, the amount, the tonnage, nothing. It was the truck driving down the road, County Road 9, County Road 33, County Road 1. Every street in Napanee that has a residential building, whether it be an apartment building or let me finish. Every street had a garbage truck on it. Regardless of whether you put a bag out or not. If you didn't put a bag out, the truck still drives by your house. And this is what everyone forgets. I'm a little, how much of my tax dollars went to the police? I haven't called, the last time I called the police, it was on a drunk driver on the 401, and that was probably 10 years ago. Well, I'm assuming he was drunk. That was my last call to the OPP. But I still have to pay. Part of my taxes go to the OPP. They go for fire services. They go to the school board. They go to, I don't have children in school. I could make the argument, but it's to my benefit that those children are educated, because hopefully someday they'll grow up and get good paying jobs and pay my pension. What I'm getting at is $133. We have to have 70% of our cost covered just to put a truck on the road. And they drive by every building, whether you're putting out a bag of garbage or not. And it's unfortunate. It's also 9:22, and I don't think we're going to solve this tonight. There's still some things on the agenda. I put out a bag once a week. Sometimes it's every other week, but I know that when I put the bag out, the truck's going to drive by and pick it up. And I don't think it's fair to make any decisions until we know where we're at with the final CMO numbers for recycling and where we're at with our negotiations with waste management. And until we have those numbers, I don't think we should be bandying any numbers around until we have more information on both of those topics.
Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Sorry, Mayor, one more. I have to respond somewhat. Councillor Hicks, I understand what you're saying. Everybody agrees. I know that there's a service to it and a pay for the tonnage. I know that there's two aspects to this. There's a population roughly of 17,000 people in Napanee. Every one of those people produce garbage. There's 6,095 taxpayers paying the special levy. 6,095. So where's the fairness? I mean, you're saying everybody should be paying for the service. They're not.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead,
So
Councillor Hicks.
in 2023, through you, Your Worship, in 2023 of June, the number was 7,343 residential addresses. Large apartment complexes are not included. So if I have 3 units in a building, I pay the levy. If I have more than 3, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody jump in. Sorry, 5. My apologies. So 5 units or less, and I pay a $200 levy, and that gives those residents the opportunity to put a bag of garbage out. Now, most landlords don't, from what I understand and read on social media, don't share the bag tags, the 50 that they get, with the residents. The residents are forced to go out and buy them as renters, not as property owners. Agree? But if it's a large apartment building, they have their own garbage handling system, whether it's a dumpster chute that goes right out to the parking lot or what have you. They don't pay. The hospital doesn't pay. Lanaco doesn't pay. The schools don't pay. Large corporations don't pay. 7,343 residential properties pay because they all generate garbage regardless of how many people live in the house, and the truck drives by their property. And 70% of the overall cost is for that truck. That's until we have more numbers, the tonnage, the tipping fees, that to me is irrelevant. Yes, we should be making every effort to divert waste. I'm fully in favor of looking into a green bin system. I compost every scrap I get, but I'm fortunate that I have a backyard that allows me to do that. But having this discussion about removing it at this point in time, I'm not in favor of.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Yep, go
I
ahead.
had the discussion with my husband who actually pays the tax bill. And when I said, do you want your taxes to go up by a potentially X%, or would you rather pay a $200 a year? He said, I'll take the $200.
Go ahead, Bill. We'll,
Councillor Hicks, when you get your tax bill, there's the tax, property tax, that $200 is on that bill. Your total taxes. It's your total taxes. My taxes, if you look at just the property tax portion, I think it went up around 7%. My total tax bill was 15% up because of that special levy. It's a tax is a tax. It's a total bill is your tax bill.
The way I look at it, it's a known cost. I know that it's $200 and I'm going to get those 50 bag tags and I'm going to use once a week. Actually, we don't have to buy any. Somehow, by the grace of glory, we use 50 or less in a year. I'll take it.
okay.
I won't say anymore. Thank you, Mayor.
No, thanks, Bill, and I appreciate that. And like I say, I think we all know your passion with respect to this. I think we've probably had enough discussion to make a decision with respect to whether or not we want to go down this path again. So if there's nothing further, we do have a motion on the floor. We'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried, or motion's failed, sorry. Motion's failed. I think that's all we need for this one, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, sorry, we'll have to get a note and receive the report. Sorry, I should have put that in there, so. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Next matter, Municipal Heritage Committee recommendation. And Madam Clerk, are you going to speak to that?
So through your worship, this report is very similar to a report that was on the last agenda regarding a recommendation from the Market Square Committee to update the website. The principle behind these reports is that we don't look to advisory committees to direct staff to perform specific work. We do look for council to confirm that that is something that they would like staff to undertake. That being said, staff do believe that the recommendation is reasonable and falls within the line of the scope of work for our communications staff. It is around separating out the work of the Heritage Committee and the work of the Arts and Culture Committee, which are currently sharing a page on the website, into two separate pages, as well as some other minor improvements.
Great, thanks, Jess. Go ahead, Bill.
I was just going to make staff recommendation.
We have a motion for the staff recommendation, which is council receive for information Municipal Heritage Committee recommendation website update report, and for that council provide direction, which is, go ahead, Jess.
Sorry, staff recommendation is to ask council what you would like to do. So
Okay,
I think
sorry.
you might want to endorse the committee recommendation.
Option one.
Option one, which is to direct staff to perform website updates as recommended by the committee. Does that sound?
There you go.
Perfect. Okay. I think
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Counselor Martin, seconded by Counselor Shank. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Bylaws. First bylaw, number 2025-0064 to amend fees and charges. Bylaw number 2023-0027, Schedule E. We'll now put a motion to put it on the floor, moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Counselor Hicks. Ready first, second, and finally passed this 23rd day of September 2025. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Bylaw number 2025-0065 to amend the reserves policy bylaw 2023-0067 to add community initiatives fund. Look for a motion to put it on the floor. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Hicks. Ready first, second, and finally passed this 23rd day of September 2025. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Information reports from members. Is there any members that have any information reports for us this evening? Seeing none. Inquiries. Do any members of council have any inquiries? Seeing none. Notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion? I think there is. Am I not? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Shank. Thank you, Councillor Shank. And I'll just ask you a quick question. Do you think that there would be any benefit for staff to bring a staff report back with this to suggest it? Or to, and the reason I'm going to say that, Mike, is that in order for us to make the informed decision that I think we need to do, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to bring back a report just to identify the fact that there could be a safety hazard with respect to the dump and the width of the road, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't want to put words in staff's mouths, but go ahead.
So what I'm basically saying is that I've heard from every resident that lives in that stretch except for one. And every one of them have phoned me and said, hey, you know what I mean? Our dogs, our cats, the people biking, Bass Cove Park, the dump, just in that small little stretch, is there any way you could reduce the speed? They're the ones that live there. If we go ahead, now it's already been a month because we had our 3 weeks or 2 weeks since the notice of motion. Now we're gonna, if we ask for a staff, if it was a lengthy road or something that, you know, that a lot of people that would be impacted. But since there's a municipal dump, unless you want to restrict the volume of people coming from town going to the dump, they would be extremely happy because half of it gets left on the side of the road or got blown off or this or that. There's 2 other more garbage bags that are still on just north of Conway that have been sitting there for how long. But all I'm saying is there's a tremendous amount of people that walk that length. And like the other night when there was an elderly lady that had a gray, but it's tarred chip, it was gray. It's not advisable. All right. And they both talked to me. They said, is there any way they could reduce the speed? So I've heard it from I don't know how many people. So I feel that a staff report on this thing is a little bit of an overkill. I just 60, and everybody will do the best they can to do with what they can within the reins of what they could do there. If I only heard from one resident and only one resident saying and everybody else would be in it, but when you have burnout marks past the dump and before the dump, you know what I mean? there's got to be some type of checks and balances there. I'm not saying it's going to solve all the problems, but at least it'll hopefully slow somebody down there. That's all.
No, great. Thank you. And I don't dispute anything that you're saying. Is I just know that we get a number of requests on a yearly basis to have the speed slowed down with respect to somebody's property, or have the speed slowed down because they may have a child that has a handicap, or have the speed slowed down because of certain things. And what I'm suggesting is that if you think it would be an advantage to investigate it, but I won't get in the way of, if you want to make that motion, I'll get out of the way and not make a comment. So go ahead.
Now, I know the roads guys, but Mike, did not do a speed monitor there, and there was the average was around 80, you know what I mean? And there was one that 100 and some. So when they did their study, there wasn't an excessive rate of speed on that. It was, and anytime you have a local road, 99% of the time, all right, is generally local people that are driving it, all right? But with the dump in the mix, that's the reason why. But I remember I saw that one study of what it was, and I don't have unless I go through my cell phone.
Yes, through your worship to Council Shank, the 85th percentile, we took a report on August 29th. We had a camera out there. The 85th percentile speed was 73 kilometers an hour. 50th percentile was 63, and the average speed of all the vehicles was 62. So, I mean, you have some outliers going very slow in that instance. The average annual daily traffic is 66 cars a day. So broadly speaking, the average speed is 73, 75.
Go ahead, Mike.
So that's the reason why when I did the notice of motion, what I was saying is 60, all right? At 60, when they're going at 70, it just confirms basically what the speed it is. It's just those few that, I know I'm not going to solve that problem, but we already, when roads guys put out that study of what that speed would be. So I'll make that motion and we'll go from there.
Okay. And I think, Madam Clerk, you have what you need with respect to the motion.
Yes, so through your worship, the motion on the floor is to direct staff to bring a bylaw to officially change that speed limit at the next meeting. And then under the Highway Traffic Act, a bylaw is required in order to change a speed limit. So we would make that appear on the next agenda if passed.
Great. Moved by Councillor Sank, second by Councillor Hicks. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried. New business. Is there any new business? Announcements. Does anyone have any announcements? Deputy Mayor Cower.
Thank you, through your worship. I would just love to thank Napanee Connect for the work they did on the past car show here in town, the Cars and Guitars. And that didn't go without the help of the Napanee Valley Cruisers and all the other countless volunteers that jumped on board with this project when it first was announced to come back. It was absolutely amazing to see. It was amazing to be part of it with 337 cars registered. I believe the number was a little higher than that actually showed up. And at one given point, roughly at least 5,000 people downtown. I can't imagine that any of the downtown businesses didn't have a stellar day, because it was just absolutely amazing. The weather was perfect. The barbecue the Legion put on, it was just amazing. If you didn't get a chance to see it, man, you really missed out, because it was a absolute showcase for the town of Greater Napanee. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Yeah, it was quite an event. Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Permit me to just add to that. Our Heritage Committee, 3 members did an outstanding job as well. They were dressed in period costume and gave out gift bags with information in it, and a bottle of water actually too. And I just want to mention that the farmers market here on the was absolutely wonderful. Busier than all get out, so it was good to see. Music out front was great, so, and the whole community pitched in and did a great job, so I just wanted to add that to Deputy Mayor Calver's remarks. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Martin. I think the Deputy Mayor's got another one. Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy or Councillor Martin. Unfortunately, I had to work Saturday, so I didn't get down to see the everything that was happening up at the town hall. But yes, you're right. Everything was beautiful. But that's why I commented on the car show, only because I did not get to witness everything up at the town hall, and do apologize for that. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there anything else before I throw another 2 cents worth on this? I think we don't want to lose fact of or focus on the fact that it was also cultural days, and the Arts and Culture Committee were also involved with this as well. So what we ended up seeing is a whole bunch of dedicated folks in this municipality come together for an absolutely marvelous day. And it just goes to show you what this community can do when the volunteers put their mind to it. So I know I was downtown for the better part of the day. It was absolutely marvelous. There were smiles on everybody's face. You know, you would expect that somebody would be a little bit cranky because they couldn't get through, but I don't think we had any complaints with respect to the traffic, and it was absolutely packed and jam packed. So again, thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Thank you, Councillor Martin. Thank you to the volunteers that were dedicated to dedicated to put the grader back in Napanee, and it really was. So I think it's a sign of good things to come. And I know that the folks at the market were pretty excited too, because they had probably their best turnout yet in Market Square. So it's going to be a tough act to follow, but I'm sure that we will. So thanks to everybody out there that again, put the time and the effort, the money into making this the best community there is. So, Councillor Hicks.
One group that should be mentioned is the Greater Napanee firefighters. They did the pancake breakfast with all the proceeds going to the annual toy drive, and I was lucky enough to be there. I didn't actually cook anything, but I smiled and talked to a lot of people and had a lot of fun. So, so that was great. So thanks to the team for letting me participate.
Yeah, and the Legion cooked up a mighty good hot dog and hamburger too. So, of course, I had to stop there as well. So, yeah, and I apologize if we missed anybody, but like I say, it was an absolutely fantastic team effort. So, thanks to everyone involved. So, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to the CAO's remarks. Mr. Grant.
Nothing for me today, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. The forward calendar, is there anything in the forward calendar that anyone had any questions or comments about? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion for the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Greater Napanee. Moved by Councillor Hicks, second by Councillor Shank. Ready first, second, and finally passed this 23rd day of September 2025. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And then motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks, folks. Another productive evening, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.